are businesses getting wrong about recruitment?
A big one, which is completely and utterly easy to do and easy to fix, is what I would never advise anyone to do. If you do...
Describing all the things I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Am I really that unattractive as a business?
We are recruiting all day, every day, and we're talking to candidates. And one of the questions we ask them is, what are the most important things to you about the next job that you do? The main things that come up is, however you want to put it, that is number one. Number two, nowadays, is... So those are the two things that we try to give everyone. We've got over 30 methods of finding the right candidate. In 2014, my dad died, which was a big sort of push for me. That was an opportunity for me to really look at, where I was at in my life. It all gets a little bit morbid, philosophical, but yeah, it did make me think.
Neil, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure.
So, I invited you on because you've got a business that I find quite inspirational, and I'm like massive. Well, I'm sat in your office right now, and it's just like the excitement of walking in and seeing seeing multiple rooms, a whole team of people all working is like, yeah, this is what I want in my future. Like, it's exciting. So, you've been on a journey. So help paint a picture. So for someone listening, like, where are you right now? We're in Tunbridge Wells, TN recruits, ME recruits, team of...
Well, there's 15 of us at the moment,
Yep.
yeah.
Team of 15. So how did you get here? Where did it
Okay, so well, it's interesting what you say about coming into the office. We're on lunchtime, so we've got some people out on lunch. We've also got people working from home. We've got one or two on holiday. So actually, the office is empty compared to what it's like.
Yeah.
So yeah, going through the journey, I had some what I thought were good ideas that I could put in place. I've been working in recruitment for 8 years. Felt that I had lots to offer, lots of beliefs that I could put in place. And in 2014, my dad died, which was a big sort of push for me. That was an opportunity for me to really look at where I was at in my life. It all gets a little bit morbid, philosophical, but yeah, it did make me think, right, I want something for me. My dad was 66, at the time I was 38, and I just thought, this is it. I need to push myself, stretch myself. And that's what I did. So I literally started out of my lounge at home, and I walked downstairs on my first day of work in a full suit with a tie.
Really?
Which is what we wore in those days. Pre-pandemic, it was always a tie. And my wife said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I need to feel like I'm at work." And she said, "No, not the suit, those." And she pointed down to my slippers. So yeah, but it was a little bit of comfort. But actually, with the suit as well, I felt like I was at work. So there I was. I was just hitting the phones, calling lots of different people that I hadn't worked with in the past. So it was real cold stuff. And then through conversation with friends, I started to get vacancies given to me, which were way out of area and things that I hadn't done before. I think the first vacancy I filled was an AutoCAD technician in London for a friend of mine. Thank you, Matt Clark, who was, it was great. And that sort of set me up. That set me up and gave me a little bit of confidence. But I was working from home. I was switching from the lounge to the kitchen, and there's too many temptations at home with the kitchen. I was just every 5 minutes going for a biscuit. So I realised I needed to get out to have my own space. A friend of mine was working from his nan's loft at the time, and he offered me a dusty desk there, which I was there a couple of days a week. And it was very sweet. They were lovely, lovely, lovely people. At 11 o'clock every day, his nan would be calling up to the stairs, "Your tea's ready, boys!" And then we'd trot down. We'd have our cup of tea and some biscuits, and then get back to work in the centre of commerce for the world, I think we used to call it. But yeah, so and I realised that couldn't go on forever, so I needed a space, and I moved into a small office down the road. Another friend of mine had a small office that he wanted to sublet. It was a room that's no bigger than the room that we're in at the moment, actually. It's probably really similar size, and it was just me, and I was bringing all my candidates in to meet with me. but it was great. I loved it, and we started coming up to the 10th anniversary. So we started in November, and I was there over Christmas. And I remember other people in the building. It was a whole load of businesses. They're all going out on their Christmas dues and all that sort of stuff. And I was just there on my own. Secret Santa was rubbish that year. I then 4 or 5 months later, I had too many vacancies to work with, or to work on for one person. So I recruited my first member of staff, Jared, who was very good. And Jared was with me 5 years and did a great job, and it allowed us to grow properly because I was able to hand stuff across to him, trust him. He was smart, intelligent, switched on, and able to follow the process really well. Then we took on another person. Bear in mind, we're still in this small office that's 3 meters by 5 meters. There's 3 smelly blokes in there. And we were still having our candidates coming in to see us. So we only have one candidate at a time. And what we do is one of us would be interviewing and the other 2 would be facing the wall and working on our laptops. So I don't know, it was probably about 18 months in that the opportunity for this office came up. And that was it. We moved into here. By now we started to really motor. We started to recruit more people. I think one of the next employees was Ellie Snuggs at the time, Waterman now, and she came in as my resourcer. So and she was fantastic. She was absolutely brilliant. What was interesting, in those days we would have all of the candidates in, and I overheard her being interviewed by one of the other consultants, and I said, "Who's the girl with the voice?" Because she had this voice that was really commanding and I just loved it. And it was just her voice that sort of swept me away. She really spoke with conviction and really articulate. So I asked her to interview for us. We took her on as my resourcer. And that was coming up to 8 years ago. Ellie's still with us. And Ellie's career has progressed magically. She started off as resourcer, then because she was able to really look after the clients, she became account manager, then she became consultant, then she was branch manager, then she was operations manager, and she's now operations director. So her journey with us has been absolutely of paramount importance, and it's been vital to the way that we've grown as a business. She is my trusted number 2. I think the investment and development in our staff has been crucial to what we do, and actually the being consistent as well. I think a lot of people and clients that we deal with who would be SMEs, they see it as a bit of a lifestyle company, and I didn't really see it as that, and I wanted to be one of the gang, if you like. And I'm in the office. I have an office that we go into for separate meetings, for training and things like that, but actually the rest of the time I sit on the floor with the guys because I want to be in amongst it. I want to be in the thick of it. And over the years we've managed to, it's been all about the team and the people that we've brought on. I had about 7 years ago, Helen Barham applied for a role with us, and Helen was my first manager when I worked at the Courier 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. And Helen applied for a job with me, and I was flattered. We took her on, and it allowed us to be able to launch ME Recruits, sister company to TM Recruits. So she heads that up. We've also had, a few years on, took on Emma Moss, who heads up our legal division. And Emma is one of our top performers. She's absolutely fantastic, professional. She's got a real keen interest in law. She's fantastic with her clients and candidates. And now 5 years in, she just celebrated her 5-year anniversary. She's come on board as a director with us. And actually that happened at the beginning of this year. So what I would say is that out of the 15 that we've got, anyone that's been here for more than a year has had some sort of development in terms of their job title, their duties, their responsibilities, and that's massively important for me. We are recruiting all day, every day, and we're talking to candidates, and one of the questions we ask them is, what are the most important things to you about the next job that you do? And the main things that come up is career progression, development, training, however you want to put it. That is number 1. Number 2 nowadays is hybrid working or work-life balance. So those are the 2 things that we try to give everyone. some form of an opportunity to progress their career. And as a company, we operate on a 4-day working week, which is quite unusual. There's not many in Tunbridge Wells, if any, who are doing the 4-day week. We also have free parking, healthcare, and the benefits go on and on. We pay a competitive salary. We have opportunities for a monthly commission, quarterly bonus, annual bonus. So we try and look after as people as best we can. We have legendary quarterly days out, nights out, and Christmas is always a big thing for us. So what I've tried to do is create an environment that I would have loved to work in myself. And thankfully, as a result of that, we've managed to keep some lovely long-term members of staff, people that I haven't mentioned, Melissa, Joe, Rachel, they're top performers. And the only way I think that we keep them is by treating them like human beings. They're all of my consultants are working mums, and I will repeatedly say to them, I don't want you missing an assembly, a sports day, or anything like that. So if they've got anything like that coming up in their private life, come to me, tell me, and they also then make up the hours, but whether they do or not, it's actually, in most cases, they're probably more than already made up the time. But I suppose because they're treated with respect and they've got this environment to work in that's great for them, it works. It's a two-way thing. So probably a massively long answer to your initial question, but I would say it's a whole host of things, but having the right team in place, treating them as well as we possibly can, and giving them opportunities to grow and develop.
Wow. I'll ask the question that every listener's probably thinking. So how do you apply for a job here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever stopped recruiting. And actually, I met one of my first business coaches. He said, you need to always be recruiting.
Yeah.
And we will sometimes ramp that up at the moment, where we're proactively recruiting members of staff for us. Yeah. So, I mean, fortunately for us, because it's our reason for being, we've got over 30 methods of finding the right candidate. And also, the people who are coming in to meet with us for jobs, like the example I gave earlier with Ellie, we're in a good place to be able to spot the
cherry pick the ones you like.
Yeah, the outstanding people, and that's happened largely with across the board with lots of the people that we've taken on. And the other thing is that lots of people who've taken on, they haven't had recruitment experience. I think out of our current team, we've maybe got 2 or 3 that worked in recruitment previously, but the rest we've trained from scratch. We're firm believers that we can mould and support and grow and really give people everything that they need in order to give them the best chance of being successful.
Okay. I've got a lot of questions. I'm going to go chronologically through your story and trying to think of like what's most valuable for like people listening. I'm thinking business owners, and whether they're started or building, is let's go back to the start. So your dad passed away, and that was a big catalyst in you starting your business. So talk to me about that kind of emotional journey where your dad passes away and then there's this point where you start your business. Is it something that you'd been contemplating and that was a catalyst? Was it like inheriting money or something that gave you a bit of a buffer? Or I just want to understand, was it this whole epiphany of like, oh shit, life's real, I'm going to die one day,
I guess when anyone leaves any job, there's always more than one reason for doing so. But there's normally one key factor, and that would have been the key factor for me that tipped me, that made me think, right, let me do something that he would have been proud of. Let me change the world. Let me put my stamp on things, and I guess that was probably it.
Okay, so that's the catalyst that helps you start. And then I'm trying to say, like, I agree with you, like, always, from what your business coach said before, always be recruiting. So in my first company, I was always recruiting, mainly because I was always seeing people leave, but also because I wanted to grow fast. And my biggest problem was retaining staff. And there's a lot that I look at, actually a lot from having this podcast and sitting down with much more successful business owners than myself, where I've pulled things apart. I've gone, oh my God, that is why no one stuck around. That is what I did wrong. So help me. I definitely know that when I was going through that experience of recruiting and hiring people, I wanted to reward people, but then I wanted to find a balance of like, how do I know when to reward? So I had things where it was like, okay, I'll do something like you get a pay rise after a year, but for the first year you need to prove yourself. And I'm like, is that? And then I remember having a conversation with my coach at the time. I was like, well, no, if you've got a real A player that comes on board and smashes it, why not just pay them more straight away, or like within the month or two? So what's your perspective on that in terms of you talk about career progression? So do you have like rules around like when you join TN or ME recruits, day one is you're on probation for so long, and then you get a pay increase, and then there's opportunity to invest in your learning? Like what rules do you set, or is it more a case of, look, I've got a set of tools and you can access those based on impressing us? Like how does it work with you?
Okay, so what we try to do, so we've got competency frameworks in place. So when people hit certain triggers, they will climb through the career path with us. So if you hit X amount of revenue, but as well as that, adhere to our values, then you've got, and there's different criteria for different levels of where you need to be. So we've got that in place first of all. So people, hopefully the team understand exactly what they've got to do in order to get to the next level. What we also do is on a quarterly basis, we'll review the team. We'll review everyone on a one-to-one basis. On a weekly basis, we sit down and meet with everyone to discuss KPIs. And yes, we talk about numbers, and the numbers of what they're doing during the course of the week are important to work towards their financial goals. It's a sales environment. So if they're hitting their financials, we almost don't worry too much about what their numbers are. If they're hitting that main number, you can almost do what you like with the rest of it. You're obviously finding a methodology that works and that is making you successful, so that's great. But if the numbers aren't going right, then we track it back. So by numbers, we've got the overall revenue figure that they're bringing in, then we've got the number of placements, then we've got the number of interviews, the number of CVs sent, the number of calls made, etc., etc. And we'll only really start to look at the first part of that, the call numbers, CVs sent, if they're not hitting the big number, and we'll work our way back.
I love that.
So, but in order to get that number, what we also do, and we did at the beginning of this year, we work out what everyone's why is. What's their purpose? Why are they here? What are they hoping to get out of that? And actually, we tend to incorporate that. We're in the middle of doing our quarterly reviews, and one of the questions in there is, what's important to you in life at the moment? And by asking that question, I know that Jo wants to take her family to Euro Disney. I know that others want to go on certain holidays or buy a car or do this or do that. And when we work out their why, or some just want that great sense of achievement that we can get on a day-to-day basis. But if we know what their why is, then we can base our management and training around that. So what else? In terms of retention, we have an induction period at the beginning, so that everyone gets a couple of weeks of training, then they're up and running, and actually we try and get them up and running within that 2 weeks. Then the training is ongoing. We do a training session with everyone on a weekly basis, even my top performers who in a lot of areas know more than me. We will do some form of training with them that will be based around something that is necessary, may have slipped. It could be something that's software technology orientated, but anything that's relevant at that moment in time. But we have diarised every single week. We have 2 training sessions, one for our consultants, which are our seniors, and one for our resources who support the consultants. So we have 2 training sessions a week. Sometimes we join them together if it's relevant to do that, but we have that time blocked out in the diary. Everyone knows it, everyone sticks to it, and it counts towards their personal development. We're also members of the recruitment network. So the recruitment network is hundreds of recruitment companies across the world who come together to discuss best practice. Recruitment's always been seen as a bit of a dog-eat-dog competitive world. But it doesn't have to be like that, and that's what the recruitment network is all about. It's about coming together, helping each other out. So if you're having a good experience with a software or a bad experience with software, you're sharing it, you're discussing it, and warning others, if you like, of your bad experiences, but also sharing the things that have gone well, what you're doing that might be good. So we're members of the recruitment network. As a result of that, I get a business advisor. I also get a peer group that I meet with every other month, where we bash around our biggest challenges. I'm also on a WhatsApp group with 50 other recruitment business owners who is pinging off all day with, what do you use for this? I'm in this situation, what shall I do? Does anyone know a good debt collection company? Whatever it might be. There's always a support network around you to lean to. And normally, someone will respond to any sort of challenge that you're facing at the moment and be able to help you solve it. As well as that, there's training sessions for my guys to go on. We're able to send 2 or 3 people on different training sessions every other month or every 3 months. So we have one for our consultants and resources, but there's also some for our team leaders. And they'll go for a day in London and learn, and it gives them the opportunity to develop.
Right, I'm interrupting this conversation just because I want to talk to you about one of the sponsors, which I love and get to use every week of my life, and that is Dragon Co-working. This podcast is sponsored by Dragon. And it's also recorded here mostly, depending where the guest is. And I just want to tell you the story of why I work at Dragon. Now, I knew of Dragon like a couple of years before I started working here. And in my first company, I was like, oh, I love this place. Wouldn't it be cool to one day be working here and have an office and whatnot? And sure enough, when I started Pink Panda, I joined Dragon. Just one, because of the culture just drew me in. The type of people that are here, the camaraderie of it, the culture of it just really drew me in. So a great place to work. But there's 2 key things that it's helped me with. One is loneliness. Like as a solo founder, when I started Pink Panda just being completely on my own, it helped to come to a place where you're not like, obviously you haven't got a clock in and clock out, it's not a job, but like I'm running my business and having a co-working space. But the key thing was having people I could interact with on a regular basis and actually build like a sense of a community. Like especially like come lunchtime, you're sitting around with a whole group of people, and then you've got people to like work with, collaborate and pass ideas between. Which leads me on to the second benefit, and that was problem solving. So I actually had an issue with a piece of content I was producing, and it was on the audio, and I just wasn't sure how to fix it. And thought, surely someone here knows. And sure enough, by the time I asked 3 or 4 people, someone was actually like, oh yeah, I know a way that you can fix that audio problem. Boom, done, they fixed it for me. So that is a huge benefit. That just instantly made it worthwhile being here, like from a financial perspective. So that's Dragon Co-working. If you want to experience Dragon for yourself, come along, you can have a day pass and experience it for yourself. Back to the podcast.
What else retention-wise? The 4-day working week was massive. 2021, 2022 was the heyday of recruitment. It really was. And I was telling my team that at the time, saying, make the most of this. And we did. We did brilliantly during that time. But one of the things that was happening is that everyone was recruiting, and everyone proactively recruiting in terms of our clients. So what does that mean? All the recruitment agencies wanted more staff to work for them. So all the recruitment agencies grew and were trying to headhunt my guys on a daily basis. Some of my guys were getting 2 or 3 messages a day on LinkedIn approaching them. Wow. So, to put the 4-day working week in place at that time was great for retention, but also for attraction as well, to make ourselves stand out in the crowd. And by way of retention, we also have private healthcare, we've got free parking in the town centre, which is a brilliant benefit for those guys to have, because they can park where you parked this morning, right outside the front of this afternoon, right outside the front of our door. And for my benefit, they can park right outside the door. They don't have to drive around for 10, 15 minutes looking for a parking space, then coming in soaking wet or sweating and panicking, and it just works for everyone. So I try and do as much as I can, and at times, it doesn't go down brilliantly with everyone what we do, and we do have a level of turnover of staff. We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but more than 50% of our staff have been here for more than 5 years, which I think is
huge.
Which is huge and brilliant. But we've lost people along the way, and in some cases some good people, and you sort of challenge yourself and what else could I have done? But I was once told by an HR person that any benefit that you give has got a sort of 6-month shelf life before it becomes the norm and it's taken for granted. And it's pretty true. It's the 4-day week. I guess I think everyone's probably still a bit grateful for it, but we're 2 years in. And it's not the same as when it first started. Like anything that you might give.
Okay, so I want to pull that apart. So for someone listening, if they're scaling their company, which is me right now, so
key things I'm taking from that is you're recruiting and you want to find great team members and you want to retain them. And so some of the keys in there is when they come on board, it sounds like you have quite a clear structure around, here's the things that we measure. You can see it all documented down. So essentially it's achieve these things, you'll be great and you'll get rewarded for it. So, and that then gives them a clear path where they can see like a ladder that they can climb, and each run has got a kind of like metrics and KPIs that they can go, oh right, I see, like I join here and here's the ladder I climb and that's all documented in front of me and I can see the team and people have done that and have climbed it, and it's not arbitrary, it's not kind of this hidden thing of like, oh well, if the boss likes you then you get a pay rise, and if he doesn't you don't. It's more like, no, here's the ladder, here's the description, go and achieve it. And then when you put a lot of emphasis on actually meeting up and communicating about that, so you're catching up regularly and learning how people are getting on, and you just have, what I really love actually is when you said like there's the one key number, and so look at the revenue that for them, obviously they're making placements that's generating revenue, so you look at that one number, that's all you need to focus on. But if that number isn't where you want it to be, that's when you start to look at the other data. But otherwise it's just that one number.
And what that does, Hayden, is it allows us to manage through data rather than it becoming personal. You know, you're not hitting the numbers. Why aren't you hitting the numbers? Oh, it's because you're not not sending enough CVs. Let's improve your CV sent. Let's see what happens with it.
Yeah, it helps you know where to train.
And if that's not working, let's improve your kills. And you know, it really is as I guess when I say it like that, it sounds simple. It's not simple because you know, at the end of the day, you're managing people who have a million things going on in their lives. And I think part of what we do as well is try and support people through the tough times too. You know, we've got, I mentioned healthcare, we use WPA. Within that healthcare, we have an employee assistance program so that they can have 6 sessions of 6 therapy sessions a year, whether that's osteopathy or counselling or whatever it might be. That's in place for them to be able to utilise. They've also got the 24-hour GP service. So typically, if they contact WPA, they can be speaking to a doctor sometimes the same day, but certainly within the first 24 hours, and they can do that on their terms, as opposed to, no, you've got a call between 8:30 and 8:30 and 32 minutes past 8, and if you don't do that, then you call again tomorrow. They haven't got that. You know, they've got that as a great benefit, and you know, they can get cash back on stuff and all sorts of things. So yeah, it's trying to support as much as we can, and you know, if people have got things going on in their lives, give them a little bit more. The other thing that, you know, when I go back to the 2 things that people look for when they're coming to see us, career progression and work-life balance or hybrid working. So they work 4 days a week. One of those days is from home. So they're in the office 3 days a week, which again, I mean, it's great. It gives them a chance. It gives them the chance to not have to necessarily get up as early in the morning, or you know, at lunchtime they can get the washing on, whatever they need to do. You know, it just gives them that little bit of flexibility.
I think there's a big thing as well in working from home, but also depending on where you work, and the free parking thing is just the commute. And it was purely through something I saw on Insta the other day, where it was this like girl that had just started her first 9 to 5 and was basically like crying and talking about just the realization of it. But the big one thing she pointed out, and like a lot of people took the piss, but it really struck me. But she was talking about the commute, and just like it never occurred to her that there's the 9 to 5, but she was like, I have to commute for an hour there and an hour back, so it's not a 9 to 5 because it's that. And as you're saying, like the working from home, it is like if you start at 9 o'clock, you start at 9 o'clock, and you can, as you say, it's like, I just got to quickly put the washing on or whatever. Whereas if you say like the free parking, and you're in Tunbridge Wells, so I assume most people are fairly local. Whereas if you've got a big commute, it's like that adds so much to your work day, and then it takes away so much R&R that you can have in your personal space. And
that's a really interesting point as well. You know, part of the battle for us is that this is a great community town. You know, you can jump on the train and be in London Bridge in 45 minutes. So part of our battle is enticing people to stay local rather than go to London. Now, one of the natural objection you get is, I can earn more in London. You can earn more, but your ticket is going to cost you, even if your ticket's $5,000 a year, actually that's $7,000 of your taxable income. You've then got, as you've said, an hour and a half, 2 hours each way.
Yeah, because you said
So-
45 minutes into London. Yeah, but that's get to the train station, get on the train,
what-
and are you sitting, are you standing? And then when you get off at the train, you
Yeah.
get in the tube, or you walk into the office, and then you get to... So yeah, you're talking an hour, hour and a half. And that's
then,
every day.
And then you go, right, so you're going to earn this extra money.
Yeah.
After your train ticket, we've established that you're going to earn an extra £3,000 a year maybe. That £3,000 a year is paying you to do an extra 2 hours a day minimum, 10 hours a week. Whereas if you work locally, you're going to get a much better work-life balance, but also get paid for the actual time that you're doing as opposed to just for travelling.
What are businesses getting wrong about recruitment? Whenever I was networking, the hardest, we're both in B&I, and I remember when I was in for my garden company, and I was in a group with 50 odd of us, and there was a handful of us that all had employees, and there was just always this mutual thing where we could just walk in and go, staff. What are we getting wrong?
Okay, so a big one, which is completely and utterly easy to do and easy to fix, is keep your recruitment process short.
Sure, okay.
Keep it short. And the reason why is, particularly over the last few years, it's been a real bum fight for candidates, good candidates, and it still is. The market has softened. There's no doubt it's softened. There's no doubt about that. But good candidates are still in demand. And if you've got a good candidate, what a lot of people don't realise, if they've applied for a job with you on a job board, like Reed or Indeed or Monster or whatever, if they've applied on that job board, their CV will be sitting on that job board so that other people can find that CV. Once that CV is on there, other people are finding that CV. You might start the interview process and you might go, yeah, great, we'd really like to meet you. We'll meet you next Tuesday. All right, all of a sudden, we're Wednesday now, next Tuesday you've lost 3 or 4 working days, 3 or 4 working days, you've got the weekend as well. That's 3 or 4 days where that CV is sitting on that database for other people to contact. Okay, you do a first interview next week, and then they come across really well in the first interview, and you go, all right, we'll do a second interview. We're going to do that the following week. I mean, I'm talking worst case scenario here. So now you've got another full week of that CV sitting on the database. All the time, you've got hungry recruiters like us contacting that person going, hey, guess what? I've got something even better and shinier and brighter and more glittery over here. So come and see my role. If you keep that process short, you've got less obstacles and less chances of things going wrong. As well as being enticed into other positions, their circumstances can change.
Yeah.
When someone starts looking for a job, their commitment to the job searching process is at its highest that it will ever be. And over time, their reason for leaving at the time might have been, I didn't get that pay rise, I didn't get that promotion, my boss is really being out of order to me at the moment, the team aren't really that nice. Over time, those things fix and the person's life changes and their priorities change. And therefore their search for the job, their will to look for a job starts to go down. So the longer you leave it to get things moving along, the harder it is to keep them in the process. So what I would never advise anyone to do, if you do a 2-stage, 3-stage and want them to meet 5 people in your company, don't not do that. Still do that, but do it over a short period of time. What can you realistically do? If you need them to do a test, can they do that when they come in for the first interview? Don't wait for the first interview and then send them the test and wait for the results and all the rest of it. Get them to do it on the same day. If they're meeting more than one person, make sure that everyone can meet them at the same time. And all of those things just shorten the recruitment process. In recruitment, we've got an old saying, time kills all deals. The longer it goes on, the more chance you've got of things falling out. And the other thing for me is use a recruitment consultancy. I think people will say, oh yeah, it's bloody expensive. It can be really, really bloody expensive if you have to do it several times over because you mess it up yourself. For us, and flying the flag for our sector, I guess, but for us, we've got a database of over 33,000 candidates. So if a client comes to us, that's our starting point. We go to that 33,000 candidates. I'm not saying all of them are going to be relevant to the job that our client wants us to recruit for, because they won't. But what it will do is it gives us a head start that is way ahead of where they are at. if a client is recruiting for themselves, they might stick an advert online, they might use social media, and what they're doing, and they might use word of mouth to put it out to the company and say, who do you know, which is great, and sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't.
Describing all the things I'm doing right now.
Yeah, and sometimes we've got people who have been recruited through a friend of a friend. We've got word of mouth. We've got people who have known me and have applied for a job as a result of knowing me or whatever. But it will only take you so far. If you've got 3 or 4 methods of finding candidates, which is absolutely great, nothing wrong with that, and you might get lucky and find the right person. That's fantastic. But you come to us, we go out to 33,000 people. So what we're not doing is waiting for someone to see that advert at the right time and apply for that job. What we are doing is going to our database of 33,000 candidates, but we've also got another 30 methods of finding candidates. So a whole variety of social media. We've all got massive LinkedIn connections. We are very proactive with all the different things that we do. I'm not going to give away all my secrets, but also recruitment's our reason for being.
Yeah.
I did a presentation not so long ago, and I said, the question was, why use a recruitment agency, or why use TM Recruits? And I had a picture of a lockdown haircut next to it, and it's the analogy is, look at the state of some of the lockdown haircuts that you saw. When people are trying to do it for themselves, you're going to have the same thing. And and the same goes for if you want to build an extension, you could build an extension if you wanted.
Bloody couldn't.
I could build an extension. It'd take me years. Yeah. And also, I'd have to come away. This is going extreme. I'd have to come away from what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. I wouldn't be here to manage my team. I wouldn't be here to deliver the training on a weekly basis. I wouldn't be here to run, oversee accounts, whatever else I do. So my business would suffer as a result of that. And there's a big cost in business hours. If you go missing from your business to recruit and do something that you're not very good at, then it's gonna potentially have a detrimental effect on your business. What else? What else are people doing wrong when we're recruitment? And what else can a recruitment consultancy do? What we're doing is we're separating the wheat from the chaff. Even if you get a fantastic response from the advertising that you put out, you're going to shortlist to the 3 people. Your shortlisting process as an outsider to my sector is going to be slow, it's going to be laborious, and you're potentially going to select the wrong people to go and to meet you for an interview. What happens once you've interviewed 3 people you don't like, you go back out to that bunch of candidates who applied. By now we might be a week or 2 down the line. And what's going to happen? They're going to have found something elsewhere. So then you end up starting again. So I could waffle all day. There's using a recruitment consultancy is without a doubt going to save you time and should save you money if you have the right agency.
Got you. I mean, I agree with you there. Like my main business is marketing, and it's that same thing of like, why? So one of the main things I do at the moment is marketing strategy consults, and it's like, why bother paying to sit with me and I build out a marketing strategy for you? And people are like, oh, well, I need to go on social media and do this. I need to think about this. But it's like, no, my life is dedicated to marketing. I'm studying it and looking and testing and iterating, and my process I use is constantly evolving. It's what I do all day long. Yeah. So it is one of those things where it's like, spending a few hours with me and paying that money, you will get dramatically better results from what you're doing in your marketing. And same as you said, Ed, like when I think my first company, when it came to recruitment, the time and energy it took me, and I was always debating using a recruitment agent, and it was like, I'm in an RN, and I was constantly hiring. And I think it is one of those things, like when I start a company now, I always start with, I note down all the tasks, every single task in that company, like could be hundreds of things. And then that forms the foundation of like the job roles, which then forms the organization chart, which then forms the business plan to see, like, I need to know who are the people I need, and I need to go find those people. The biggest skill set I'm trying to build for myself is how to attract really talented people and motivate them, inspire them, and then help them want to stay with me. And that task list, I'm trying to remove myself from as many of them as possible and just go out of the 250 tasks. What are the like 10 that I'm really good at? Let's get me doing those 10 as quickly as possible, and all others are done by others. And I think that's when you start a company, it's like, yeah, you need to be really good at finding people. And when you start, and like most businesses, like anyone listening to this, they'll probably listen to this because they're not like someone like, I don't know, Stephen Bartlett or Elon Musk that have got people knocking on the door, pounding down to try and work for them. So you need to be able to attract people, and it's like, just find someone that's way better than you at doing it. Someone that's dedicated, as you say, you guys are dedicated every day. It's the industry you live and breathe. So I agree with you there. But I'm putting myself in the mind of, like, so I'm recruiting at the moment, trying to find myself a marketing business development manager. I know exactly who I want to find. Why am I, actually, funny enough, I'm going to have a conversation with you after this about what it would look like. But the thing that puts me off, that I'm apprehensive about, is probably the money. Knowing that once someone's place, it's just the thousands of pounds I'm going to pay, and it's like, maybe I should try myself for a bit. But I'm like, if I just like accept and pay the money, like I'll probably have someone great within like the next 3-4 weeks, and then can start growing this company and scaling it, and would pay back that, I don't know what it'd be, 3, 4, 5 grand in that fee. That would be paid back probably by the end of the year, because I'd have a great marketing manager that's going to work with me and then generate loads of revenue. But I think there's that thing of like, yeah, but what if? And it's like, knowing it's that, what do you say to that? There's that fear of like, oh, it's that fee I'm going to have to pay. And there's that. And also I think in myself personally, I don't know about someone listening, but in myself personally, I think there's a sense of failure. It's like, can I really not attract someone to come and join me? Am I really that unattractive as a business? I'm going to pause the conversation for a moment because I'm going to tell you about one of our sponsors. And actually, this is a really cool story and quite a shocking one actually. So let's dive into this. IT Manager Services, got talking to Tom. So I want to tell you this story of one of his clients that was an accountancy franchise, that it turned out that their cyber security insurance was actually void because of what their IT provider, their previous one, was doing, or rather not doing. It's definitely something that if you're running a business, you want to watch out for. So the problem was they weren't receiving the quality of service that they were expecting or were promised. So when Tom first met them, they were unhappy with their provider, just through certain things such as they were supposed to be getting all of their software and all of their activity backed up. Turns out it wasn't actually being backed up. They were supposed to have all of the servers moved over to the cloud. That hadn't happened. So you can imagine, big problem. They were annoyed, frustrated, hence why they've called Tom in. So getting started with IT Manager Services, Tom just made sure to get on top of everything. Upgraded all the servers to the cloud, made sure everybody had their own license and account for privacy. So I was using Microsoft, but they had to make sure that every single staff member had their own license, so they weren't accessing each other's accounts and emails and whatnot, because the previous company hadn't looked after that, and it was just a key problem that they need to solve that didn't even realize they had. But also gradually started building more security and automations within their systems that they were using, just to make things more efficient for them. But it was in this part that they actually discovered a key problem was their cybersecurity. Turns out it was actually completely void because they didn't meet the due diligence of all the requirements of what they need to have in place for their IT. So now as a result, of course, their cyber insurance is covering them and they're fully compliant with it. They're now way more efficient in their day-to-day practice and procedures just because of the automations that have been put in place on their systems. And this is all something that Tom and the team at IT Manager Services have done for many of their clients. So what I'd recommend, just for peace of mind, give IT Manager Services a call. And I know it's not that I'm unattractive, it's just that you're not a recruiter. You're not spending all your time recruiting.
Yeah, and it might be that you're sort of okay, I haven't taken a brief off of you for this job.
Yeah.
From what you've described, what you've said is I want to write down all the list of duties and then I'm going to advertise based upon that list of duties, yeah?
Oh, I can tell you what my process is if you want. My thing's mainly challenges. I try and challenge people. So my job description for the marketing manager, I go more into values. I'm not really fussed about the job spec. It's like, yeah, you can kind of, if you're applying for a marketing and business development role, you kind of know what you're doing. But I focus more on the values. Like, here's the company I'm building. Oh, by the way, here's what's going to suck. And I just list a bunch of things where I'm like, I am a challenge to work with and work for. So it's going to suck. And then that kind of draws people in where they're like, why are you trying to, like, you're not selling yourself, you're doing the opposite of that. And that kind of draws people in and makes them curious. But the big thing is that values, like, here's what I'm building, here's what I want for humanity. And this company's part of that goal. And that has been something, it's just, I haven't got enough people reading that description. And I think if I could get thousands of people reading it, it would find me someone.
If you've got a title of marketing and business development, okay, there's two different jobs.
It is.
Marketing is very different to business development. And for me, if you're looking for a marketing person, that is a certain type of animal.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a business development person, that is seen as sales. Marketing people, typically, through my 18 years worth of recruitment experience.
Yeah.
Typically, marketing people don't want to do
Yeah.
business development. They don't want to do cold calling and whatever else might come under. Business development is a massive, broad term, but to most people, it says that means I'm going to be hitting the phones and making lots of calls. Marketing people who are trained in marketing don't want to do that, from my experience. So if your job title is marketing business development, that's why you're not getting people reading on.
The funny thing is, it's business development in a marketing company. So it's like, initially a lot. So like the person I'm looking for, the initial thing, they're going to be joining me in market research. So it's hitting the phone. It's not hitting the phones of like, are you looking for marketing? It's hitting the phones going, look, we're doing some market research. We'd love to ask you some questions. But they become, once we go through that phase, they become the marketing manager where they're working directly with clients, they're closing clients. So there's that element of sales, but they're working with a team, managing them, making sure they're making the content, building the web assets and everything, and doing all of the marketing for clients.
Sales is one of the trickiest jobs to recruit for.
Really?
Out of everything. Yeah, absolutely. I've got one client in particular who said, and this is, right, I'm a salesperson, I work in recruitment. That is what I do. So if I say anything detrimental to salespeople, I'm saying it detrimentally towards myself.
Yeah.
So there we go. Salespeople are difficult to recruit for because often salespeople, one of my clients says, the best pitch they do is when they come to see me for an interview. And they sell themselves into the job, and after that they don't deliver because of whatever reason, a whole host of reasons. It might be lazy, it might be unreliable, whatever else. So salespeople are traditionally the toughest to find. They really are. So if they're tough to find, what is it that you can offer that's really different to everyone else? And also, if you get any salesperson who is experienced and any good, their first question is going to be, what's the commission structure and how does that work? Okay. And if you haven't got that, there's certain clients that we've tried to recruit for and they don't give it, they say, oh yeah, plus bonus or plus commission. If they can't define what that is and what that looks like, if you hit X amount of, you earn this. For me, with our targets and everything, everyone knows exactly what they need to earn, exactly what they need to bring in, and then what their reward is as a result of that. And without that, you're bashing your head against the brick wall. You've got to be specific.
Yeah.
If you bring in X amount of clients, you get this, or X amount of revenue, you get this in return. And for any salesperson who's worth their salt, that is the sort of question they'll be asking. The other thing is, it doesn't sound like it's just telesales that you're recruiting for, but a lot of people will say to us, we need an experienced telesales person. There's no such thing. And I'll tell you why there's no such thing, because no one wants to be a telesales person for their entire career unless they're a total psychopath. Why would you want to put yourself through that? It's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, there's different ways around it. But a telesales person then moves their career along to become a telesales manager or an account manager or a field salesperson. I'm probably being really off to telesales people, and I'm sure there's some that have done a whole career of it, but often, most likely, people move on from it.
Yeah.
And again, I've been in recruitment 18 years. There have been very few career telesales people who have done it for their entire career. And a bit like anything really, anything that you start off doing, you want to see it move on. If you start your career as a marketing executive, you want to become a marketing manager, then be a marketing director, or whatever the path might be. You don't want to stay as a marketing executive for your entire career. You move on from it, and it's seen as the most junior part. And it is quite a sadistical thing if you want to be sat there being told no all day because of your method, your technique or whatever. Obviously there's different channels for business development, and we do business development as part of our job. My guys are making cold calls on a day-to-day basis, but they're also sending out emails. We do videos, we send out videos to our clients or to potential clients. We'll connect with them on LinkedIn. So there's no one way that a person will receive a sales call or whatever. There's no one method to suit all. We're not guaranteed that the calls that we make out that everyone's going to go, oh brilliant, a recruitment company phoning me, wonderful, I can't wait to speak to you. We've got to really find what the pain point is and hit people at the right time. just like me. And actually, I gave an analogy to the team earlier. We work with one of our suppliers. Contacted me initially. They sent an email. Then they phoned. Then they sent me a connection request on LinkedIn. And then they sent me a video. And in the meantime, Ellie comes to me, my number 2, and she says, "Oh, I've got this company called Sourcewell." We use Sourcewell. We've got this company called Sourcewell. And I say, "That's really funny. It's been on to me as well." Sourcewell do email sequencing. So that's what they do as a company. And it plugs into our database. We use a recruitment-specific database, and it plugs in nicely and it works fantastically. That was their approach. We've now been with them for the last 2 years. At the point that they started to connect with me, I wasn't in the market for what they do. But what they presented to me, I knew could add value. And it was only through them proving that they could add value, and also other members of the recruitment network being able to lean on them and say, "Has anyone heard of this company? What do they do?" Other people backing it and saying that. But I wasn't in the market for what they did at the time. They just hit me at the right time. Okay. So I guess I've really waffled there. But yeah,
it's a podcast. That's what we're supposed to do.
Salespeople are tough to find.
Okay. So, like, one thing I find challenging in Pink Panda now, so having a garden company, it was pretty easy to be like, what does the organisation chart look like? And it's, well, I'm finding gardeners to go out on the tools. I need to hire gardeners. They're going to be on the tools. Easy job role in terms of understanding what it is. And someone in the office, well, I know exactly what we're going to be doing. That's an office role. And again, easy to formulate and structure it. Pink Panda, though, it's been harder because where it's marketing and it's like operations and marketing and sales all become this kind of amalgam of the same thing, because our operations is marketing and we're doing marketing for clients. So it all just merges. And then when I look at the organisation, it's taken me some time. I've got to a point where I really love the organisation chart I've designed out for it. And I've got roles that people will do. And I suppose there is this thing where the first person I'm looking for to hire this marketing business development manager, it's like basically what I want is my right-hand person. I'm throwed on my way to Mordor. I want to find Sam. And Sam's going to be there holding me up. And or like I want to become the key person of influence in my company, and I need that right-hand person that's going to support me. Or a good example is like in SpaceX, Elon Musk owns SpaceX, or is seen as the face of SpaceX. Gwynne Shotwell is the person running SpaceX. She's the president of SpaceX. She's like the glue that is keeping this thing going and running it and making sure it's all, well, not ships, smooth sailing or whatever, or smooth launching. And so I'm looking for that person. So I guess it's hard to be like, maybe I should just put right-hand person.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, how many staff have you got? I'm the
only person full time, and then it's like a mix of freelancers. Like I've got a PA, a VA, an editor. But what I'm looking for is I know the team I want to build, and I was like, right, so it's going to be the web person, the socials person, and then a manager to manage them, and then eventually the manager will manage 2 teams. Yeah. And then I want to have 2 managers, and within 3 years I then have it will be a managing director with 2 managers, and then they have 2 teams, and I'll be the founder and then I'll have other companies. So I think what I'm trying to find is the person that's going to go on to become my managing director in the future. They could just become one of the 2 managers, but I think what I really want to find is the person that's going to become my managing director. So we can start from here, and there will be like, it will be here's your role, and you join, you're on probation. Once you do that and past that, you then get performance pay, which is all bonuses and commissions. I want to try and get to a point where, I don't know if it's achievable, but I want someone to be able to double their salary every month based on performance. And I say that not to say every month, but similar to you, monthly, quarterly, annual bonuses. I want that combination to be able to double their salary. And then they can get Class B shares after so long, they qualify for Class B shares. And then if they become one of the top dogs, they can get Class A shares and have voting rights in the company and such. It sounds very similar to what you've done, like you've got now directors in the company and stuff. So that, and formulating that structure, admittedly, a lot of it, like you're saying about, you need to have that clarity. And the top salesperson that you interview will be like, show me the commission structure. And I completely agree with that. And it's the kind of thing where I'm like, I need to find my right-hand person because we're going to work this all out together. I've done a lot of work, and I'll probably, if I really sit and analyse it, I can come up with a commission structure. But it's more, I want it to be done with them, to be like, right, how are we going to build this out? And if you can come on, and essentially they're going to head up operations and everything. So maybe I'm looking for head of operations. And this is the cluster that is my mind of trying to map this out. So I'm curious, in your service then, is it something where
to recruit, you're not just going to go, so who are you looking for? We'll go find them. Is it going to be like, right, tell us the business and let us understand the role. We think you could really, if you promote the role as this, it's probably going to work better for you. Is that more like how you would work?
I can only speak through the experience of what we've done. So the first person I brought on board was a salesperson who was able to be the other half of me and then actually take over a lot of the clients that I was dealing with. And the next person I took on was a salesperson. And actually, you know, the next person, I probably took on 3 salespeople who were doing the full job. They were doing full 360 recruitment, we call it.
Yeah.
Find the vacancy, take it on and fill it. Then you find another vacancy, and you've normally got several vacancies going on at once. So you know, it's a big plate spinning operation. So to have several of those in place, we didn't need an administrator straight away. You know, it was only when we got, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 people that we then went, oh, hang on a minute, we need someone to support us from an admin perspective. And it was little by little. But when I took Ellie on as my resourcer, I didn't ever think not think that this girl's going to be operations director one day. That's just happened over time. It's just evolved that way. So I don't know. I suppose, yeah, you could set out to do that. But I think fundamentally what happened with me is I had too much work to handle for myself. I couldn't fill all the vacancies I had on. So I think before you start taking people on, you've got to get to that stage where you're literally bursting at the seams and you can't do anything else with your working day. You can't fit anything else into your working day, and be slogging your guts out, you know, doing 2 people's work and be at that capacity to go, crikey, you know, I absolutely need to take someone else on. And maybe it's 1.5 people's work, and then you take someone else on, you do a bit more, they can then expand their role. But yeah, I mean, great for you to have the foresight to be looking at what you've got as your future org chart. I probably didn't have that. It's just kind of evolved that I've found the right people at the right time, and we've kind of grown and been in the right place at the right time and done the right things.
There's something there I disagree with you on. So it'd be interesting to discuss. So you said about like you took some, like your thoughts around taking someone on is get yourself as busy as possible to the point you're doing 1.5, 2 people's work, and then it's like, I'm bursting at seams, I need to take someone to help me. I disagree. So I come from a different approach, and like with Pink Panda, every company I'll build in the future as well, I will have that organisation chart and go, right, when I start this company, here's of the 250 tasks, here's the 10 that I'm going to do. So straight away, I'm going to get to work on who are the key people that are going to come on board with me. I'm not going to be doing 10 tasks initially, I'll probably be doing 50. But who are the people that are going to be like doing 50 there, 50 here, 50 here, 50 here. But as we grow out that organisational chart, people will reduce their task list because it will become more refined about what are you really good at. Let's focus on that, and then bring other people in to help, and they'll be really good at something else. And it's like, oh yeah, well that's well and good to find people, but you've got to find the clients as well. So like what I'm doing with Pink Panda is I know exactly what I want to build in terms of the retainer service, which doesn't exist right now. So most of what I'm doing is these consults. So there's no retainer service yet because I'm building it out. So the way that I'm balancing, I've got 3 people I want to employ, but I've got a bunch of clients that want to do this service, and it's like the chicken and the egg, which do I go get? I'm going to get in both. So I'm building up trying to do recruitment to build relationships with these people and learn what do you want from, as you said with your staff and your surveys, it's like, what do you want from life right now? What is it that's really important to you? And find people that I can align with the values and what I want in my company and say, right, brilliant. But what I'm doing simultaneously is going out to my network of people I know in business and then just cold outreach to people to say, I'm doing some market research, I'm building this retainer service. It's going to exist in the new year. Can I just ask you a few questions on marketing? Most people will say, yeah, right. So I ask the questions, and then I get a bit of information about their marketing and such. And I say, thanks. The reason I've asked those questions, as I said, I'm building this service. The way it's going to work is this. I want it to be as helpful and valuable as possible. Would you like to join the waiting list? All that means is you're not obligated to do anything. You're not paying me any money. You're just saying, that sounds interesting. I'd like to learn more because it could be helpful for my business. And then what it will be is between now and when it's launched, is I'll just be asking you more questions and catching up once a month or something. So I want to have 100 people on that waiting list that are like, yeah, I'm genuinely quite interested in this. So then I can ask them, like, here's what I'm thinking for the service. What does that sound like to you? And they go, I like the sound of that, I don't like the sound of that. I'm confused by what you mean by that. And then in terms of like budget, what does this service cost? Well, I'm like, well, I've got a window that I want to
budget within and say, this is what it's going to cost a retainer. But what better way to get the answer than to go out to my waiting list and say, here's what we're thinking of structuring it as. We're going to do 3 packages and this sort of pricing. Tell me what you think about that. And then I can get the feedback from them to say, oh, yeah, that sounds a bit expensive. That actually sounds really good value. And then if I say, well, this is the top package, what does it need to achieve in your business for it to be worthwhile? Like, this is marketing all about finding the people you need. So you draw people to you, the ideal clients and team and partners. It's all about building marketing systems to draw those people in. And so a lot of people will have some kind of thing of like, yeah, if I'm going to pay you $2.5, $3 grand, $5 grand a month on a retainer, well, if you're bringing me this type of client and 10 of them a month, then and you can help me convert them and stuff, and all that marketing is making my life easier, and I'm getting 10 of these clients a month, and yeah, like, I'll pay you 10 grand a month because it's going to have a huge impact on my business. So by having that waiting list, I can gather all that information and go, amazing. So then from the 100, I can then try and sell the marketing consult to be like, something we can do straight away is this marketing consult where you'll get that as a structured document to give you the information you need. And that is what the retainer is going to be. We're just going to go and do it all for you. Or here's the document, go do it yourself. And then they realise it's loads of work and they can't. And so the whole thing there is generate revenue here, which then take on the market manager. They're going to be doing this communication with me. They're going to be doing the consults with me. So they're generating revenue. And then all the while trying to find those 2 people to be the web person and the socials person. So then the idea is it all ties up in this neat bow where come the new year is when I want to do it. It's probably going to be later. I've got from that 100 people, I've then kind of got my top 10, top 20 that are like, as soon as you're ready, let us know. We're going to start paying you money because this sounds great. So I'll have those people, and then I've got my marketing manager working with me now, and then I've got the socials and the web person where we'll start to do little bits here and there, testing the relationship. So when this is ready to launch, we've got a team that's been building a relationship, getting to know each other, and then it all kicks off in one where we say, right, you're going to be the first 4 clients. This is the start date. You're now going to be employed. This is the start date. Bang, retainer comes in, they start, retainer's paid, end of the month, that's the money for their salary, and then we just build it up from there. So you don't need to have a workload. So like, I'm not trying to start the retainer and do everything all myself, because there's no way that I can build websites, manage social media, make the content all in one. So I
think you know, we're 2 completely different businesses. I think here's the point. And you know, for me, what I wanted to do was get the business in a certain place and have a certain amount of capital behind me before going to the next level. I've never taken out any finance. I've never had to do it. But what I have done then is built up enough money, which is enough capital, which has given me the opportunity to be able to take people on. And until I've got that, I'm not taking people on. And you know, that's been my philosophy throughout. So I need to be able to afford for the people to come in, and if it doesn't work out, which sometimes it doesn't, you know, it's nothing ventured, nothing gained. We're still happy and comfortable as a business. We're not sweating to be able to pay the bills. So yeah, for me, in terms of taking people on, I would only do it if I'm comfortable with the revenue coming in. Like I say, we're 2 completely different businesses, and I think what you're doing at the moment in terms of using freelancers on an as and when basis, that makes complete sense, because you're dealing with the stuff you're dealing with the stuff as it's coming in, as opposed to taking the plunge, taking someone on and having that outlay on not just their salary but everything else that goes with it. Employers NI, pension scheme, the equipment, and you know, all those other lovely things that people don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing in my first company. Like, I just started a garden company, got myself so busy that I couldn't cope with all this work coming in, and it was starting to get more consistent. And then obviously it's garden, you get retainers, brilliant. So that's when I was like, oh, I'm too busy, I need to find someone. And just started with people being self-employed, helping me for a day here, day there. And I'm like, what's employment? And then I was like, oh, I can employ people. And like the same thing for you. It's like, oh, I've got this money in the bank. I've got enough capital that I know if I employ someone, even if all the work disappears for 6 months, we're good. And so, and just carried on scaling that way, as you described. And obviously I'm doing it completely different with Pink Panda, but now, like, every company I want to start from here on, I won't start it myself and be trying to do all of this to get too busy. I'll do it where I'll find people, bring them in, and whether it's like equity partners as co-founders, or it's like come on board, but it might be like, oh, we're going to have an investor come on board and they're going to fund
the 3 people's salaries we take on straight away, but we're simultaneously building a waiting list of people interested in this service. So it's all kinds of ties in that way. It's been an interesting thing to learn about this. Obviously for you, it's like worked incredibly well. And that's why we're sat here.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember talking to you before about the 4-day work week, and that really surprised me. I think you're the only company I know that has a 4-day work week. And you've talked greatly from it. And like my fear is just productivity. Have you found people are just as productive? Because it's...
So we didn't just one day wake up and go, we're doing the 4-day week. We went through a trial. Now, that trial was during the heyday of recruitment, so it probably wasn't necessarily the best example of time that of when we could have done it. But during that time, we analysed everything. You know, we analysed after halfway through it, 3 months. We got feedback from the team. We looked at all of the data that we were bringing in, and ultimately, after 6 months, we were 7% up on the 6 months prior to that. So, having done the 4-day whilst we were doing the 4-day week, against not doing doing a 5-day week, so we were 7% up doing the 4-day week. Wow. So, you know, that for me, and productivity, where we're measuring the amount of calls that are going out, the amount of CVs sent, some of the productivity was down, some was up. So it didn't actually, we really were able to get to the nitty gritty of the figures on that. One thing that we did was we knew that we couldn't be shut. So we didn't want to just say, right, we're all going to work Monday to Thursday and then on a Friday we're off. Okay. It doesn't work like that, because I know that companies call, candidates call, looking for a job, and we need to be on hand to answer that call and to help them. And if we're not on hand, where's the next call they're going to? Where is the next call they're going to make? It's to one of our competitors. So we need to be open the whole time. So what we decided on was a buddy system. So we work Monday to Thursday week 1 and Tuesday to Friday week 2. Your buddy does exactly the opposite of that. So every other weekend, everyone has a 4-day weekend, which has served us well. We've been doing it for 2 years, but recently we've just been challenging that and going, actually, is that right for us? And we've now come up with something that it's going to be a bit of a watch this space, but we're going to next month, as of the beginning of November, we're going to do, everyone's going to work Monday to Thursday, everyone's going to have a Friday off, apart from we're going to work on Friday on a rota. So there'll be 2 or 3 people in every Friday who will be there to take that call from the client and to hold their hand or to deal with the candidate. So they've actually got someone to talk to. Fridays traditionally are a quiet day for us. Mondays are dead busy. So for people to be off on a Monday, to be off on a Friday and then a Monday, it means them being out of the business 2 working days. But as far as the clients are concerned, if they phone late on a Thursday and they can't get the person until Tuesday, it's quite a kick in the nads for them. But, you know, and we try and deliver celebrity levels of service. We try and deliver the best service that we can possibly give. And we give a bit of an analogy as to, if you're in a supermarket and you say, right, where's the Marmite? And they go, aisle 5, off you go. And you have to go and find it on aisle 5, like a lost sheep. But a good supermarket will say, yeah, come with me. I'll take you up. And they go, there it is. And you, thanks very much. That's the level of service that we want to be delivering. We want to take people to the Marmite rather than telling people where it might be. So the customer service levels are going to be huge. Now, what this is also going to do, because we work with 1 day from home, what we're finding is that with everyone working different days from home, the office is half empty on quite a few occasions. I think we only have like 1 or 2 days where it's really busy and lively and buzzy, and that's what we want in a sales recruitment environment. So what we're doing is Wednesday is work from home day. It means that everyone's going to be in the office on Monday, Tuesday and Thursday, and that's going to be brilliant for us. And then to have the Friday rota, you know, the team are excited by it, and I think it would be great. If anyone's thinking of doing a 4-day week, start with a 9-day fortnight or a 4.5-day week before you take the plunge is my advice, because you can always take it up to a 4-day week, but it's very difficult if you wanted to take it down. You know, taking away a benefit from your team, you know, it would literally be pitchforks outside my house. So which I don't want. But yeah, the 4.5 day week or a 9 day fortnight is a good step towards it. And if you're doing a 9 day fortnight, you can use the buddy system, be open the whole time, half your team in one Friday, half the team the other Friday.
Good advice. Very good advice. Wow. So, like, my thinking around with Pink Panda and building a team and everything is, I won't have a structure in terms of like a 5 or a 4 day week, but what I'll have is, because similar to you, I want people to be able to live a life. And like, if you've got to take your child to the dentist, you've got an assembly or whatever, parents even, or you've got, I don't know, your best mate's just like, I've got a day off, do you want to go Fort Park? It's like, how can people do that as much as possible, but it not impact work? And so like my theory, what I want to do with Pink Panda, and I couldn't do this in the garden company because the garden company needed structure. You had to arrive, be in a van and go to the job. So you kind of have to have Monday, Friday, here's what we do. Whereas Pink Panda, because it's much more laptop based, this works. And it's going to be, I like the idea that people will be full-time, you'll have a base salary, which then you get performance pay, and then, as I said, like the equity, the shares and everything. But it will be something where it's like Monday morning we'll have a team catch up, and Friday afternoon we'll have a team catch up. I'm not set in stone with that, but it's just like start the week and end the week together, just looking at what's gone well and what challenges we've got and how we're going to solve these. But in between that, it's like, get the job done. You've got your targets, you've got your performance pay you can earn. If you get your performance pay, you're absolutely smashing it for me. The performance pay is based on what would make my life as easy as possible as your boss and make the business run as smoothly as possible. Well, that's your target. That's how I formulate the targets. If you do that from home, if you do that in the office, just get it done. And if you're going to be in the Bahamas working, or be in Paris, or be in Rochester, just get it done. And as long as those targets are hit, and we can meet up on Monday and Friday and kind of start the week and end the week together, let's just get it done. I don't care where you are, what time. I don't care if you're clocking it. Because as well, definitely with marketing, because it's so creative, I'm trying to think more of like, how do I work? And how I work now is very different to when I had a garden company. When I had a garden company, it was like 5 a.m. I'm up, doing everything before I start my day at like 6. And then I just worked through until I'm pretty much a workaholic. So then I would just work until I went to bed. And now with Pink Panda, because it's all creative work, I often find like sometimes in the morning I don't really do a lot. There'll be a few things, but a lot of the creative stuff I'll just do into the evening. And I could be working at like, I try and have a bedtime at like 10 p.m, but that goes out the window. So I could be working at 11 p.m. I could have a brainwave come in because my mind's slowing down, it's creative and the juices are flowing. It's like, oh, just had a great idea. And I'll just get to work at it at like 11 p.m, midnight or whatever. But then I had it the other day where my mate rung me and was like, oh, what are you doing Monday morning? I've got time off. Like, do you want to come and hang out? And I was like, yeah, right, calendar, yeah, I'm free. I want my staff to be able to, like my team to be able to do that. And appreciate that, yeah, sometimes they might be like 9, 10 p.m. and they'll be messaging me with ideas and what they're working on. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. Like I want to have that flexibility. So I guess it's not a 4-day work week. It's just, if you do that across 4 days, get it done. If you do it across 6 days, then learn to be more efficient. But we will, as a company, we will look to see how can we be as efficient. I've got 7 guiding principles. A lot of them are based around efficiency. And we will just constantly look at how we do our job more effectively and more efficiently. But yeah, I appreciate like the 4-day work week is something where it can only work with certain, because my garden company, I really don't see how it could have been achieved. Because there's only so much gardening we could have crammed in there.
Oh, the 4-day week isn't for everyone. And,
no.
you know, hospitality, retail, I can't see how it could work, but it's a big talking point at the moment. And you know, Keir Starmer is talking about rolling it out as something that companies have to offer, or it should be there as an option. With what he suggested is cramming the 37 hours into 4 days. All right, we only went up half an hour on per day. Yeah. So we do 8 hours a day as opposed to 7.5. But then you get the 5th day off. I think what's also going to be I hope what's also going to happen with this new 4-day week is that on a Friday people can genuinely switch off. I think what happens is when you've got 2 days off in a row, certainly my top performers get nervous about that, so they're dipping into work all day because they know it's in their interest. You know, if they get an offer in for a candidate, they want to make it themselves because they know that if it goes wrong, they'll kick themselves. So, but I think I've got more chance of them really relaxing on that Friday, knowing that they can have a 3-day weekend, back in on Monday when it's when it's super busy.
Yeah, I definitely, as well, I think like cramming in the hours so you do longer days kind of makes sense because it's just becomes more efficient as well. Like take the whole London commuter thing is, well, if you're going to do a long commute, it's better to have a longer day because then you're reducing your commuting time because you're only doing it 4 days a week instead of 5.
Yeah.
But also I had something that came up on my LinkedIn. Someone mentioned work-life balance and that it's not so much of a thing, it doesn't exist, but I think if you've got a job like the gardeners I employ, you need work-life balance if you're doing so much and then you switch off. But I think if you have like in Pink Panda, I feel like with what I do, I have something that I love doing. And like, I don't care what time it is, I just love working and it's exciting. I think if I build the company the way I want to, people are just gonna really enjoy it and it's not gonna feel so much like work. There'll be times when it's exhausting, but it won't, like the whole thing, there'll probably be communications on a Sunday, whatever, but people will be excited about it. But then equally, as I say, that whole thing of like, if your mate rings and they're like, what are you doing on Monday? Like, I've got the day off, let's go paintballing or something. That to me is balance, is you just get to do what you want. It's not like, oh no, I clock in at this time, I clock out, and then when I clock out, I'm clocked out. It's like, to me, I think now, balance is more fluid, where it's just, are you living a life that you really enjoy and you're happy and you're fulfilled? And work can kind of fit around life. I
suppose with that level of flexibility, you've got to be a little bit careful because there'll be some people that will take the mick with it. Okay?
Yeah.
You're good people, if they've got a deadline where a client needs something done at a certain time, their mate says to them, do you want to go paintballing? A good person will say, no, you know, I need to finish this. A person who's maybe not as committed will go, yeah, look, you know, Hayden said we can be flexible, so I'm off.
Oh
so
God, you're right.
Yeah, it's getting that balance right.
Yeah.
And what you'll find is, whatever you do, the good people will still do as much and be as committed as they need to be.
Yeah.
But the people who aren't as conscientious will just maybe take you at your word for, yeah, do what you like, guys. Come and go as you please.
I'll have to work that out. Neil, thank you so much.
All right,
this has
pleasure.
been a phenomenal conversation.
Right, good.
I've got my closing tradition of my last question. What is one thing that exists within the world today that you hope will one day be eradicated?
Eradicated?
Yep.
Crikey. People not indicating at roundabouts.
I mean, self-driving cars are going to fix that problem for you soon.
Yeah, let's hope so, yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Cheers, thank you.
Oh, that was a really fun conversation. This conversation has been brought to you and produced by Pink Panda Productions, where we make marketing for purpose, that purpose, build your business. How effective is your marketing? Don't know? Want to know? Take our 2-minute quiz and find out exactly how effective your marketing is at drawing in your ideal client, your ideal team member, and your ideal partner, so that you can stop wasting so much time interviewing candidates that just aren't quite the right fit, stop wasting so much time meeting with prospects that aren't ready or aren't right for your business, and find great partnerships to help build your business with other businesses. So take the 2-minute marketing quiz to find out how effective your marketing is. Look in the link in the description to take your quiz and get your score.